don't have an in-ground irrigation system for your lawn, you likely know how much of a hassle it is dragging hoses and sprinklers around every week just to keep your lawn irrigated properly. Recently, I decided to purchase an automatic digital water timer from the folks at Melnor to automate my lawn irrigation and reduce the weekly hassle of manually irrigating my lawn without breaking the bank on putting in an in-ground irrigation system. In this video, I'm going to go over the features of this device and discuss the pros and cons that I've discovered in using it after a few months, so stay tuned. Thanks for coming back for another video. I'm happy to have you. If you don't mind, for that algorithm, give this video a thumbs up and consider subscribing so you don't miss out on future content. Now let's get into it. Now, if you've ever shopped for a water timer before, you know there are several different options available on the market from various manufacturers. There's everything from the old school manual water timers to now digital water timers and even Wi-Fi and Bluetooth controlled water timers. Now, I opted to purchase this digital water timer from Melnor for a couple of reasons. Number one, I already run Melnor products in my lawn, so I use Melnor hose connectors, Melnor nozzles, and even some Melnor sprinklers. And number two, I love the quality and peace of mind that Melnor offers. Now, they have one of the best-in-class warranties in the business, in my opinion, and they stand behind their products. Whenever I've had an issue with a Melnor product in the past, I've contacted the company directly, and they've sent a replacement, no questions asked, for me. So it's great that they stand behind their products. You don't find that too often anymore, and that's one reason why I love Melnor. So let's get into this timer and its features and what it does. Now, Melnor does make this digital water timer in some various sizes. So this is a 2-zone spigot, is one I purchased. They do also make it in a 1-zone and a 4-zone. So whether you're running one hose and sprinkler or multiple hoses and sprinklers off one spigot, they have something that's going to meet your needs. Now, based on my lawn size and considering I didn't need to run 4 hoses at once, that's why I purchased this 2-zone sprinkler. Now, I picked it up off Amazon for $45 with free shipping when I purchased it. I don't know what the price is now, but I will link it below and you can check it out, or check it out on any other retailer. I know they sell it in various spots, but I found that Amazon had the best price with the free Prime shipping when I ordered it. All right, now you can see once we get it installed, you'll have off here on your main screen, and you'll have some controls. So you'll have up and down, which adjusts your watering time, the different zones. For this model, I have a 2-zone as we discussed. So this will be zone 1 on this side, and this will be zone 2. And then you have the master button for controls. Now, on your first button, you're going to want to set your daytime time, match it up to whatever time it is. Right now it's 1:47. So this is what the program will run off of when you program the sprinklers. Now, the next screen here, you can see I have zone 2 set at 8:02. So like when you get this, it's going to be defaulted to whatever. You can switch the times around. So if I wanted to start at 8 a.m., I can set that on zone 1 here. And now if I wanted to switch to zone 2 and change the programming, I can switch to zone 2 back and forth on this screen. So once we get the times we want to set here, so for zone 1, this is going to run for 40 minutes, and this is where you can adjust your time. So you can go up or down, whatever how long you want to run this thing on zone 1. Now, I would recommend, at least with my water pressure, I run 1 zone at a time. So I don't run them both. Now, if you have good water pressure, you could run both for different times. That's something that I wish I had, but I unfortunately don't, so I run 1 at a time. So we get back here on zone 1, we're going to run for 40 minutes here. Now, this is an interesting setting. So it'll ask you, how often do you want to run it? You want to run it every day at this time, every 2 days. Now, you can go up through 7 days, or you can do hours, up from 1 hour all the way to 12 hours it will do it. So typically I will do 1 day and we'll go that route, or every 2 days, and just alter what I need to do from that perspective. Now, once we get everything programmed, we're going to go back to the time. Now, if it doesn't say off on your screen, that's how you know this thing's programmed. It'll program through zone 1, next start time at 8 a.m. tomorrow, since we picked 1 day, and zone 2 at 8:43. So if I left everything as is, this thing will run every day for zone 1 at 8 a.m. for 40 minutes, shut itself off, and then run zone 2 as we programmed it. All you have to do is leave your spigot on, make sure there's no leaks, and this thing is pretty much a set it and forget it from that perspective, which is fantastic. And then obviously when you don't want to run it, to turn it off, we just click the button, it goes to off, shut your water off up here, and this thing won't do anything until you come back, run through the system again. Now you do have to run through all screens to set it back up again, and just make sure that it says next watering time to make sure it's going to run when you want it to run. And then, like I said, shut it off again, just as so. Now another thing I like about this is the manual override. So say I have this off and I don't want to take this off every single time that I water. All I need to do is come in here and hit manual, select zone 1. Now again, you can go between zone 1 and zone 2 and say I just want to turn the hose on for a little while. This will run through and turn on the zone 1 for 7 minutes as here on the timer. So this shows you that the water is on and running to zone 1, and it'll turn off in 7 minutes. Now if you want to shut it off before your manual water time is over, you just hit manual off and it shuts off the sprinkler, closes the zone down, and shuts off the entire hose. Now it did take me on the first time out of the box a few minutes to get used to the settings, but once I got used to them, it was very simple to come back to it and program everything like I wanted to. Now I like this thing so much that I ended up getting a second one for my backyard, so now I have a 2-zone on each sprinkler, and I can run 4 hoses or sprinklers in the early morning before I even wake up, in the front and back before I have to move them again when I want to water another zone. So I can cover most of my yard on those zones while I'm away or while I'm sleeping, and then I do have to move each zone separately to get the rest of my yard watering. But overall, this thing saved me a lot of time in moving one zone at a time. I mean, it was a day-long process of trying to get the whole yard watered. Huge time saver for me. Now I will warn you that out of the box I did have an issue with the timer. One of the valves was stuck open. Now it did address this in the manual as a troubleshooting device, and it was a quick fix. I'm glad they had great instructions in the manual. Basically all I had to do was reset the unit. It gave me instructions on how to reset it, remove the batteries, do a factory reset on it, and then reinstall the battery, and the valve shut. Now they did say that the valve can bounce open during shipping, which is likely what happened to mine, but like I said, once I fixed that issue, the valve closed, and I haven't had any problems with it since over the duration of the few months that I've been using the unit. Now I did promise you that we'd go over some pros and cons of this unit, so let's get into it. So first we'll start with the pros of this unit. Number one, I love that it's an inexpensive option to semi-automate my lawn irrigation. Now like I said, I don't have an in-ground irrigation system, and I would spend a lot of time dragging hoses around doing one zone at a time. So the fact that I can do this front and back, automate 4 separate sprinklers, 4 zones of my yard, and cover most of it for the size that I have a 7,500 square foot yard. I can do most of the yard without having to move it. So it cuts down a lot of time for me. It's pretty inexpensive. Like I said, I spent $100 on 2 units as opposed to several $1,000s on an in-ground system. And this is especially nice automating this when I overseed. I don't have to come out and move things around all day long. I can automate it even when I'm not home. Number 2, I like that I can set separate zones with separate programs. So I can set up one zone to run a certain time, let's say 40 minutes. I can set another zone to be 60 minutes. They don't exactly have to be the same. But like I said, I do set them separately based on my water pressure, but I do like that it's a flexible programming option depending on your needs that you have for watering. Third thing I like about these products is I can manually override it. So like I showed you earlier, if I don't want to use time system in the programming, I can hit manual override, set it for how many minutes I want to run for each zone, and I can do that. So as I said, I have a hose nozzle hooked up, so when I want to water the plants or something like that, I just manually override it, set it for 10 or 15 minutes, do my watering, come back and shut it off. So it's nice that I don't have to take this off every single time I want to use the hose. I can just override the system and use it as needed. Another thing I really like about this is the excellent battery life. Now, when I saw this thing ran on 2 AA's, I was kind of hesitant when I first bought it, thinking, you know, how long is this going to last? Because it's going to be on 24/7 all the time. I'm still on the original pair of AA batteries that I put into this thing about 2.5 months ago. I've used it weekly, several times a week, manually override. Almost every day this thing gets used between watering and manual override mode, whether I'm using the hose nozzle, etc., power washing the house, the car. So this thing does a great job on battery life, and I've really been impressed with it so far. The last thing that I like, and probably the most important thing, as I mentioned earlier, is the warranty that comes with the product. Now, Melnor says this comes with a 7-year limited warranty. If it breaks or quits working, you contact customer service, they'll get you a new unit sent out. So you know when you're spending 50 bucks or so on this timer that it's gonna last, and if it doesn't, they'll send you a replacement, no questions asked. Like I said, I've used their warranty several times on a few things, including hose nozzles and sprinkler heads that have just worn out from using them all summer long or multiple years in a row, and they've always sent me a replacement. Best warranty in my opinion from a irrigation water nozzle company that I've ever dealt with. Now let's talk about some issues I have with this product and some things that I think Melnor can improve with this product. Now my biggest issue that I found with this is I can't bypass certain times. So for example, when I overseed, I planted my seed, I want to water it 3 times a day. Say I usually do 8 a.m., noon, and 4 p.m. for 10-15 minutes a zone each time. So when I want to do that, I basically set my programming to run at 8 a.m. and then set it for every 4 hours so it runs at noon and 4. Now the issue with this is when you do that after the 4 p.m. watering, if I don't physically come out and shut the sprinkler off or shut the hose nozzle off and shut off the timer, it will run again at 8 p.m., midnight, and 4 a.m. Now I don't want to water it all night long. I don't want to flood out my seed. I think that's something that Melnor could program into this model where I could say, you know, after 3 waterings, I want to bypass again till 8 a.m. or some type of feature like that. I think would be super helpful and put more automation into it and prevent the user from having to come out and manually override things. I mean, the goal of this timer is to automate, make your life easier, and I think that'd be a feature that we could add on this to make it easier for the end user, skipping watering times. Now I will say this unit does have a rain delay mode on it, so you can temporarily suspend watering and leave everything on and just say, hey, it's raining. But again, you got to come out, you got to put it in to manually put in, hey, I want to suspend due to rain. I think a sensor on this would be helpful. Now I do think that some of the newer sprinkler timers from Melnor have sensors on them. I could be wrong, but when I looked, it did look like some of them might have had sensors. It might not have been from Melnor, but some have rain sensors that will sense water. But then again, I mean, with my hose, it's up under a awning underneath the overhang of the roof. So even if it rains, it may or may not pick up the rain sensor. So that's something minor that could be fixed, putting a rain sensor on, which would be helpful if you have this out in a garden area or something. If it rains, it could kick off and not water and flood out what you're doing in your garden or in your lawn, depending on where your water hookup is. Now, after going through all the pros and cons, there's definitely more pros than cons in my opinion with this model. And overall, I've really enjoyed this water timer. It was well worth the $45 that I purchased it for on Amazon. Check the link below, I'll link it, but it's available on multiple sites. I just found at the time, like I said, that Amazon had the cheapest overall cost included with the prime shipping for me. And for less than $100 for both units combined, I've been able to basically automate my watering and not have to spend all day moving a hose around every zone. I can set them up the night before, 4 different zones, program the run at, you know, starting at, usually I do 3 a.m. in the morning, let everything run. So by the time I get up, 7-8 a.m., most of the zones are done. I can move the sprinklers and I can have everything done by 10 a.m. So in the past, it was taking me well into the afternoon. Now I can get everything done early in the morning, which is ideal when watering. And I've really loved these units. They've definitely helped me on overseeding time. They've definitely helped me on non-overseeding and just watering the lawn. Doing it in that morning hours to where I'm not wasting water when it's hot and it's evaporating quickly. So it's been a great upgrade for me in terms of watering my lawn properly and effectively. Hey, if you guys have found this video helpful, please smash that like button. Help the YouTube algorithm move this video around to help other people on YouTube looking to automate their irrigation. hit the subscribe button so you don't miss future content on this channel. And I really appreciate you watching. I appreciate your support of the channel, and I'll see you next time out in the lawn.